welcome to Life Guidance from Beyond. We're your hosts, Deborah Rogers, holistic occupational therapist, certified trauma specialist, and intuitive healer, and
Jenna Murphy, communications executive by day, and intuitive medium and spiritual coach by night. On our show, we'll be channeling wisdom from beyond, diving into the Akashic Records, mediumship, and sharing somatic techniques to help you tackle the everyday challenges of being human.
So let's explore the wisdom beyond and find new ways to navigate life together. Hello. So welcome everybody. Today we actually just opened up the Akashic Records and we called in the higher beings of the Pleiadians to help just give us some guidance and see actually what information they would like to share with us. And when we opened up the Akashic Records, we actually said it with the intention of
the podcast audience. So of you, our listeners, we want to know what is needed by you. And so we're trying to connect to connect the collective people that are listening to the podcast with the spiritual aspect that we have tapped into.
So the Pleiadians are with us, and you want to start? What you're sensing, what you're hearing?
Yeah, so initially what I am seeing is like a blue being with a very heart-shaped face. It feels like a female. She feels very tall and has really beautiful green eyes. They're very almond shaped. And she feels like a benevolent presence, I'm not fearful of her. She feels like she's here for a purpose.
So Jenna tends to be able to visualize a lot, and I tend, but well, you also hear, right? And sometimes I visualize, but I don't have quite the same skills Jenna, but I tend to be very auditory and sensory. So I feel like a shift of energy in the room when they come in.
My ears too, they were feel like I'm being put in another frequency, almost like I'm being lifted up. My ears
to help maybe meet at their frequency.
Meet them, yeah.
Right. So I guess let's ask for if there's a name that they would like to share or she would like to share.
Claudette.
Claudette? All right, Claudette.
Can't make that up. It's very specific.
So Claudette, we know you're here for a reason, and thank you for coming. And is there a theme that you would like to discuss or share with us today?
The coming changes on the earth plane.
Yeah. So, since we don't have questions right now, it's more like would love you to kind of start the conversation. What would you like to say, Claudette?
That she knows that there's a lot of anxiety because we're leading up to the election period, and people both sense it and also logically know that this could be a very tumultuous time in our country. And she's here to acknowledge that unsettling feeling that collectively we are all tapped into, whether we want to be or not. We can sense there's change coming, feels uncertain, and it can be causing a lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm sensing too is there's a collective change, and I don't know if people always feel that or realize that's might be what they're feeling too, because when there's so much change that's starting to propel energetically, we can also pick up that feeling. But I feel like there's a collective change, but also there's an individual change where a lot of people are being propelled to also have some shift, where that means looking more deeply inside of what they want to get rid of, how to move forward, maybe dreams that they've aspired to, but they just maybe didn't have the wherewithal to be able to do it, starting to think about that. And so when you have individuals that are thinking about this and the energy is starting to like shift within them, what happens is that also carries out to the collective, right? Because say you have like, say there's like 5 people out of 7 in a room that are feeling like a shift, that energy of those individuals gets picked up. And you can call that a collective energy that's starting to shift, right? And the other people may start feeling that collective energy as well. And sometimes that will tap in, because I'm just channeling now, can tap into those individuals that weren't even feel the shift. And all of a sudden they can feel it. It's almost like I feel like putting um, fuel in a tank for
Mhm.
people. The energy is kind of like the fuel in the tank. And then do we want to press on that gas, on that accelerator? How fast do we want to press on the accelerator, or how slowly do we want to go? Which is what we're more in control of.
Right.
But there's definitely some form of shift that not all people may feel, but I think a large number of people are feeling now and will be feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's here to acknowledge those feelings and to validate that yes, there are changes afoot and you're right to be sensing that something's going to change. She's not here to be to create fear. She's here simply out of love and caring for the human race and wanting the best for all. And so she feels like she might be able to impart some wisdom in order to share some techniques on how to cope during uncertainty in general.
And so I have a question, if that's okay, Claudette. Before like imparting the wisdom, sometimes it can be scary when we don't know what that shift actually means. Can she explain that a little? What she means by she feels a shift?
So the shift is the earth is going through a big transformation, and it's not it's not all as a result of humans treating the earth poorly, although there's some element of that. However, it is a natural evolution of our planetary existence. And so, as inhabitants of the planet, we need to also evolve and shift. And so, as the, the planet itself starts to change shape potentially through tsunamis, for example, and what used to be an island may no longer be an island, but may be covered by water. As a human species, we will need to evolve in order to survive. And so we will have to think differently, act differently, prepare differently. And so there's kind of multiple elements happening at the same time. So you have the Earth's shift and evolution. You also have the collective systems in place, like financial, political, and global. And these systems have evolved. And as a result of the changes within the planet and the changes that our bodies will need to go through as a human, are these areas like political, financial, they will need to evolve as well. So it's not a single change. It is multiple levels of change simultaneously taking place. And that's what's creating this speed. It feels like time is speeding up. It's because there's more change than ever before on all levels. It's like spiritual, mental, physical levels. So your body is reacting to all three, which makes time feel really fast.
And just to let the audience know that when you mention like a tsunami and an island not being there, that's just an example. That doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Right.
It's just giving an example of um, shift. And, what we forget about is Earth is a living being,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
just like we all evolve, we change, we have experiences, that's kind of what Earth does too, right? It has experiences, especially in relation to how we treat it, how we interact. And it evolves and changes too.
Mhm.
And when we think about we're all energy, the earth is energy, nature's energy. And so when we want to live in this congruency, right? When the earth changes and shifts, we kind of feel that, right? Because it's energy, but we also, our energy starts shifting because
Right.
we want to, it's not just coincide with the change, but we want to exist in more harmony. And it's like this natural, innate, almost subconscious,
Yes.
right, aspect of ourselves where our energy is feeling that and it's starting to shift too. It's almost like the idea of like, when there's a full moon and sometimes all hell breaks loose, but because there's so much energy, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people have more depressions or more anxiety because they can feel that energy. A lot of times there's a lot more admissions into hospitals even, or people are
Mhm.
like, oh, what a crazy day it was today. So there's so much energy that we feel and it affects us and how we react and even respond. And part of the podcast is to help people, instead of reacting, more responding, right? And I mean by responding that we have actually the control and the power to make the decisions and choices we want to make that are in our, highest good. But, when we think of ourselves, we also have to think of the collective because we all affect one another. So making choices and decisions that are highest good for ourselves, but also for one another as humanity, right? And
Mhm.
Earth.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you have to say about that?
She's saying, "What? You don't need me. You got it."
I don't know who I'm talking. Am I talking at getting her or is
Yes.
it someone else?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm just going sometimes.
Yeah. So I think I need you to ask questions.
Yeah. So I guess she was mentioning she wanted to share some ways to help people with this, whether it's techniques or
Mhm. Coping mechanisms
yeah,
with change.
yeah.
So she's saying setting your expectations for um, change ahead is a realistic way to approach how you frame what's going to transpire in the next few months leading up to the US election. Um, don't be anxious about it, but expect some bumps in the road so that you're not as surprised. Like you won't feel blindsided if you have just this understanding that change is afoot. And it is so important to speak your minds now more than ever because what you want as a collective for the earth, for the nation, is so critical. And so make your voices heard. If something is
Mhm.
happening that you do not agree with, or you do not support, or is not for the highest and best of all, in your opinion, make your voice heard. I think a lot of where we are now is a result of coasting a
Mhm.
bit. And so we need to raise our voices up and really fight for what we need and want.
And fight. What would be another word for fight?
Yeah, not literally fight.
Yeah.
Um, campaign,
Yeah.
like
That's a nice word.
pulling ideas together and presenting them in a way that answers the issue that's at large, but is another solution, a
Mhm.
potential solution,
Yeah.
and voicing that and really rallying behind it is going to be critical.
Mhm. So it sounds like this podcast episode is really about gearing up for the elections.
Yeah.
And so what we're not saying like it's one person or the other, right? When we're talking about politics, Democrat or who, it's not about who you vote for, right? Because it's, my sense is that, not everybody, but there's a lot of people on either side that are wanting change, right? So they're voting for whether it be Trump or Harris or someone else because they want that change, right? And so I think part of this too is no matter what outcome, it's remembering how we're all, again, we're talking about the collective, right? We're all connected in us, a lot of us wanting change, right? So, so no matter who wins, like I just want to, invite you to remember why that person won in a sense, right? Because the people that voted for that person wanted change, just like you voted for another person, perhaps because you wanted that change, right? And so remembering there's like, I think remembering the collective in this is so important, right? And as you said, like having your expectations, and it almost makes me think too, if this is about empowerment,
Yes, very much.
right? It's about using your voice, campaigning, rallying, and this is a time for empowerment. And no matter who wins or loses, this is still a great opportunity to empower yourself, to use your voice, to begin the shift. And I honestly feel like no matter who wins, there's going to be some type of shift.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And just like you said, the earth is also shifting. So shifting is taking place no matter what, whether it's going to be a fast shift or it's going to take time. Might be fast, but it's feeling empowered because what you're saying about the expectations. Can you say that again?
Having an understanding to expect a bumpy road ahead
And know that's okay.
and that you'll be okay. Everybody will be okay. However, it won't be necessarily a smooth sailing and easy. But no great change comes without that either.
Right.
So,
And I feel like bumps sometimes are what make us self-reflect, right? They kind of force us to pause and self-reflect and see what we really want and don't want too, which can be empowering too.
it's growth opportunities
Right.
for all. Yes.
It's all part of evolving.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And is there anything else that I would like to say just regarding like, how can people feel ease?
When if there's anxiety that strikes, to sit in the feeling of love, the vibration of your being, your human body is different when you're anxious versus you're feeling a sense of love and contentment. So if you can bring that anxiety down and center in love, if you just sit still, think of an animal that you adore, a person that you adore, and just focus on that and feel the love come out of your heart and around you and shift your own vibration this way. Because we're all connected as a collective, your doing that will help others have the ability to also match that loving vibration. The last thing we want or need is to be all in an anxious state, and that just drives a chaos of sorts. So if you can pull yourself back, recognize when you are feeling anxious, pull yourself in and center on love, and know that you're helping others by doing that. Experiment a bit with that as the weeks go forward, and see how it impacts you, and see if it makes a difference in almost how you see the world when you're looking at it through anxious lenses versus a loving lens.
I was getting that too. It's about love, and as you said, it's a state. It's a state of being, and when you talk about expectations, you can also have the intention of how do you want to be when there are bumps in the road, or how do you want to be when something goes your way or doesn't go your way? How what state do you want to be to achieve as much as you can achieve? Um, and how do you want to be so you can be happy, right? And anxiety is a normal reaction, right? We have it all the time, and just knowing that, just labeling this is anxiety and knowing that's okay. But then, as Jenna said, going back to, okay, so how can I feel love, right? And picturing a pet or a loved one, um, and helping to really feel that in the heart. So we can kind of bring our energy down from our head and the swirling anxiety or our stomach, and bring it, center it within us in our heart, which I think is very important to be coming from the heart. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think underscoring your point of choosing your reaction to
Mm.
circumstances. A lot of people don't even realize that that's an option because it feels like you just always have a reaction to stuff,
Mm.
right? Like that's just how we live.
Right.
But if you kind of arrest those thoughts and step back and observe from a point of observance,
Comes a response.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. A reaction comes, it's almost like a behavioral outburst, right? And that's where we lose our control. This versus a response is where we have the control. In one of my pain management classes, I was teaching the lion's mind. I didn't know if I told you this or not, but um, actually, you can Google lion's mind. It's a beautiful meditation and metaphor as well. But what it is, if anyone has a dog out there like us, you
yeah,
throw a bone, and right away the dog just runs after it. It would even go across the street in traffic just to get that bone, right? Without thinking, and it's reactive. Versus if you ever see a lion on the nature shows, the lion is just sitting there observing. You throw a bone, the lion is going to be sitting there weighing options,
Hmm.
right? It doesn't go after the bone right away.
Huh.
So there's more to the story of lion's mind, but it's basically, can we think with a lion's mind? Like you said, can we step back? Can we observe? Even observe the different responses or reactions we might have. Can we observe that first before we actually do respond?
right.
Because we're going to be coming from a different place when we respond versus react.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's also consequences, right? There's consequences sometimes in a reaction versus a response. So it's
Yes.
also thinking about consequences,
Yes.
right?
And it has a domino effect.
Yeah,
Your reaction impacts others. And so being mindful of how you may be impacting others is an important thing given a stressful time or uncertainty. It will be more important than ever
yeah.
to have that skill.
And knowing that others are going through this too. Others are
Right.
most likely, right,
Yeah.
feeling the same thing. And it's almost, I feel like this isn't even just about what's coming up with the election. This is advice really just for life, right? We have so
True.
much stress in our life,
Very
stressors,
true.
right? It's like help us with family or a job or, who knows what else. The
Yep.
list could be endless. But yeah,
I feel like she's saying that this is enough.
yeah. I'm feeling my energy kind of go down.
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. So just to wrap it up, do you want to wrap it up or quick summary? Or even
Yes. So what you're sensing about change is accurate. There's change afoot, but it doesn't mean you need to be anxious about it. There are tools that you can use, like stepping back before you react, taking in how you're feeling, taking note of your vibration, and then pulling it back into love if you feel you're not vibrating from that place. Everything will feel more manageable when you're coming from a place of love rather than fear.
Yeah. And you have control over what you want to feel, right? If you want to feel anxiety, if you want to feel fear, or if you want to feel
Right.
or be in a
The
state of love.
focus.
Right.
Yeah. Refocus.
Right. All right. Thank you for joining us. And then we thank the Palladians. We thank Claudette for their wisdom.
Yeah.
And we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us on Life Guidance from Beyond. We appreciate your listening. And don't forget to subscribe.